Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. You know, I've noticed something, and this is something that's been going on in my mind for the past few months. Regardless, Capcom and Resident Evil. Have you guys noticed that we never had a collection of the original Resident Evil trilogy, as in Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3? I find it very strange. We had Origins Collection, which is basically Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 0, or 1 Remake and Resident Evil 0 being in a collection, like the remastered versions a few years back. And more recently, they released Resident Evil Trilogy Remake, like digitally on the PSN store and the Xbox store and everything, but they will probably release a physical with those games. They also kind of done the triple pack, which is Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6. Not all these things, but we never had a definitive Resident Evil original trilogy. We never had that for some reason. I don't understand why we didn't do it. I don't know why Capcom never tried to do it, even though it wouldn't take a lot of effort when it comes to this. And I know, granted, a lot of people said these are old games. They might be old games, but these are the games that made Capcom. Literally catapult the company to the stratosphere. Without Resident Evil, they'd not be, because prior to this, all they known for was just a platform series, the Blue Bomber, aka Mega Man, and fighting games. That's the only ones they know about. But moving to something new like survival horror literally catapult the company to heights they never imagined. So why there wasn't an original trilogy? That's something that's been lingering in my mind for a few months now, even though it's been evident that remasters of classic titles has become kind of like a norm now. Look at Square Enix with their Tomb Raider remasters. They've already freaking gotten the original trilogy. They literally are remastering the original Lara Croft games that's based on the original Lara Croft character. And we got as well the Master Collection Volume 1 a year back with Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. And Capcom, they're doing the same thing as well. A recent example is them doing the Arcade Classic Collection, which contains a lot of the 90s and a lot of the early the 90s fighting game franchises and some of the early 2000s fighting games. And there are certain games that hasn't been talked about. Certain fighting games kind of are seeing the spotlight again after years of slumber, like School Rivals, for example. So why we didn't have any Resident Evil collection? Devil May Cry has an HD collection. That went well. Capcom tend to really disassociate from the original titles, and all they care about is the RE Engine games. Here's the thing. You should not ignore these classic games, especially the original trilogy, because without these 3 games, the original Resident Evil trilogy, you will not be hitting the stratosphere. The series wouldn't even exist today. These 3 games are the reason why you're still a game company. Resident Evil is their highest selling game franchise. It turned Capcom to a mega billion-dollar game company. It's the most well-known game series next to Monster Hunter and Street Fighter. So basically, ignore the original trilogy games is disrespectful and it's criminal for them to just completely disown the original games. Look at Square Enix and Konami. They acknowledge the original trilogy and respect their original games, the original works, but Capcom doesn't. Why? I just don't understand it. But this is not about like them, like why they just don't give a fuck about the original titles and they all care about the RE Engine games, because most of them are not that great. But the point is that we need an original trilogy. And here's how I'm gonna do it. And this is just how I put it, and this is how I feel like, you know, the original trilogy collection would look like. So follow me on this journey with this one. So the first two Resident Evil titles have multi versions of themselves. Like there's a lot of versions of the original first two games, and there are some unique versions that has certain amount of content that other versions don't have. So let me give you guys the rundown of how I think this collection will be. And I want to make this collection to be to make it like worth your money and is worth the buy. I'm gonna pull a page book out of the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, and I'm gonna use it as an example of how I can structure the Resident Evil Classic Trilogy Collection. Whatever I call it. I call it the original Trilogy Collection. Let's just put it there. So, of course, we're gonna have the original 1996 Resident Evil 1, the game that started it all. It's very important. We need to have this game. Very important. We need to put that there. It's always been the first game on the list. The second, we have this director's cut, which is basically an updated version that added more difficulties, added a rage mode, which is basically changes everything that the game is, new weapons, new costume, new unlockables. Of course, you can choose between the PAL region, the PAL NTC region, or a Japanese region. It's depending on you. It'll become, of course, an option. Of course, with the director's cut, you can either have the original soundtrack, or there's no soundtrack version, or the greatest hits version, which they changed the soundtrack. It's really up to you to choose which one you want. And here comes the unique versions. 1, the Sega Saturn version. The thing about the Sega Saturn version has different costumes than other versions have, and 2, which is definitely one thing that the other versions don't have, is Saturn mode, which is just kind of like an extreme battle mode for Resident Evil 1. That you can, like, it's basically that. It's you go through room to room, fight multiple enemies, and you go through against a tyrant, like a gold tyrant, and all that shit. You fight not one but 2 gold tyrants as the boss, and you get some unlockables. So that's one of those versions. Just for pure shits and giggles, these two are just optional. Give us Resident Evil 1.5. It would have been amazing to just have that there, to see people, it's like what Resident Evil 1.5 is, like how it was gonna be, blah blah blah. It's really cool, and so I think it's pretty damn dope. The second thing is Resident Evil DS, or Deadly Silence. It came out for the DS, which is essentially an upgraded version of the original Resident Evil 1. Which basically they take the PS1 version of Resident Evil 1 and just basically make their own. Add new difficulties, add new modes. It's basically kind of like the definitive version of Resident Evil 1. Put that there. Like, put it there. Even though I was like, yeah, you can't blow. I mean, the PS5 controller have a microphone, so you can just do that. Or maybe, you know, you press a button, mash the button, or just have to like time the button the right timing to do it. You know, do some of that, you know, revamp it, you know. Of course you have to clean the game, make it run good, some versions and everything. And yeah, it's cool. It's pretty cool. So that's Resident Evil 1 right there. That's a good amount of content right there, the first game. Now for the second game, not a lot, but it's good enough, but it has a bit more content. Yeah, of course you got the original Resident Evil 2. Then you have, you know, director's cut version of the game, and we have a unique version. It's probably the most unique version of any Resident Evil title, the N64 version of Resident Evil 2, which has more difficulties, all the modes unlocked from the beginning, having different colored blood, a randomizer mode, so on and so forth. There's a bunch of content for that version specifically, so I think it'll be pretty cool to give us this version of the game. I know, for just pure shits and giggles, and I know a lot of people say this is crazy, but bear with me with this. Just for lols, give us Resident Evil 2 for the Tiger handheld. I know a lot of people been saying now in your screen, now you guys thinking, what the fuck, Chris, what are you thinking? This version sucks, is horrible, is garbage, is shitty, it's the most unplayable version of the Resident Evil title bit. Like, please just, this is a celebration of the series. Why not just bring all the versions in there? Again, it's not a unique version, even if for the wrong reasons. Just please, just put it there, just for just pure lols, and people can experience it, the torture, I guess. Then with Resident Evil 3, get the PC port, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing really much unique versions for Resident Evil 3, unfortunately. Unless you want to get the PS1 version, that's fine, but just get the PC version, that's it. Here's some extra stuff I like to have. Give us, like, you know, and this is just could happen, could never happen. Why not give us some unreleased stuff? For example, give us a somewhat of a, like, you know, I don't know, like a copy or like a playable version, a small playable version of Resident Evil 1 on the Game Boy Color. Give us that one. It's not really hard to get. Put it in the game. Give us Resident Evil 1 demo. It would be cool to see. Give us like the latest build of the Resident Evil 1 demo. Or heck, if you want to get too few builds, then go ahead. It's not gonna take long. It's gonna be very, very small to see where the series began. Again, this is I want to say this. This is a celebration of the Resident Evil franchise, and this is I'm gonna make this collection worth the while. It's worth the money to get. And just for pure shits and giggles, it's probably sitting there. How about Resident Evil 0 on the N64? Give us like a playable version of that. Again, I know these are just extra side stuff that might never happen. When I put it there, I think it will be pretty cool to have it there. And of course, and this is obvious, trophy support. Want to have achievements? Of course, we're gonna have achievements, obviously. And then like the rest content is basically from the disc. You can do is, let's just say, concept arts, soundtracks. You can listen to pamphlets, like manuals, like in-game manuals. You can manual the game. You know, have different style. Stuff like that, you know? It's like little stuff like these that will be interesting. Heck, give us maybe videos of like behind the scenes. Maybe heck, have like, I don't know, like how the series became to be. Stuff like this to appreciate the series, appreciate how the original trilogy came about, and what was the initial idea of this Resident Evil franchise. Like, what's the initial things for the series become what it is? How the struggles. What about, you know, why there's like, you know, why they didn't port the uncensored cutscene from the intro cutscene to the US. Like stuff like this that maybe there's a lot of questions that people need to ask for years. Anything involved on the original trilogy would be absolutely amazing. It would be something to behold, and something that I believe a lot of the fan base would heavily appreciate. It would be awesome. It would be amazing. It would be cool. It's just, I believe it will be a lot of fun. And there you have it. That's basically it. This is basically my rendition of the Resident Evil original trilogy collection. So this is how I would do it. I know I took as well a page book out of Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, like a little almost word to word with it in some degree. But really think about it. This shit sells. Capcom, if you really listen to this, if you come across this video, trust me, if you do exactly as I said, and if I was Capcom, I would do this immediately. And trust me when I tell you, this is gonna bring a lot of classic fans. You're gonna make the classic fans happy. This is gonna be awesome for basically everybody. For new people who want to play or experience the original titles, and of course, mostly for the classic fans who love the original trilogy and want to go back to the original trilogy and play it for a modern system. There you go. Like, this is something that I believe would be amazing for me, a lot of people. Make this happen, guys. Make this happen and make this into a reality. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all to say about it. What do you guys think about my rendition of the Resident Evil Trilogy collection? What do you think? You guys have any ideas? Anything you want to say? Put down in the comments. Heck, spread this video. Spread this video out. Trust me, this is something that would be amazing for everybody to have. Like seeing Capcom making these arcade classic collections, why not have for Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3? These 3 games are the reason why Capcom is Capcom today. Without those games, Capcom will be in a different position. These 3 games are very important. These three games are the backbone of the Resident Evil franchise. These are very important games in the series. These games must be played by everybody and must be experienced by everyone, from young newcomer fans or classic fans who wants to come back to something familiar. Heck, release it on PC, on Steam, release it on freaking on consoles. Release those. It's amazing. And I know I say this for now. I know people have been asking me, but there is the original trilogy, but it's on GOG or GOG.com. But this is only for there. It's not on consoles. And the version and I don't know what's the difference in here and there. You guys can tell me in the comments. I felt it's just like PC ports of the game. There's no changes. There's nothing interesting. But trust me, my idea for this collection is way more interesting. Whatever GOG does. Whatever GOG does, they didn't do shit. Like, they didn't do nothing. They just port this shit and just sell you for $20. Well, you can literally just look up on YouTube or look up on the internet for literally to download the game. If you look hard enough on the internet, you can just do it for free, and that's it. That's basically it. That's it. It's done. It's easy. It's done. There's no issues. Like, in comparison to just like go to GOG.com and just pay $20 or like $40 for a trilogy, which is criminal, by the way. Honestly, it's criminal. You can just get it for free if you look hard enough on the internet. That's it. That's basically that. So I have to like put that whole thing to rest when it comes to that whole GOG thing with Resident Evil trilogy. Which I think, by the way, it's ridiculous. So yeah, that's the end of the video. What do you guys think? Leave it down in the comments. And yeah, see ya.